South West Coast.
I rise to speak on the Domestic Animals Act Amendment, Puppy Farms and Pet Shops Bill 2016. And I rise to oppose this bill, backed up by hundreds of emails and phone calls to my office since these laws were first proposed 12 months ago, but to support the amendment that was put forward by my colleague. But of course, this bill was quite obvious there was wide opposition to the government's proposed bill, and that's why they pulled it and said they would consult widely. And we see apparently that this bill we get today is a better bill, but if it's a better bill, I struggle to understand that there's 30 pages of amendments. Clearly not a well-written bill if at the last minute we've still got 30 pages of amendments. And it's obvious to me that it's not a good bill, because it's very obvious, and I've heard it in the House today, that there is so little understanding of animal welfare. And it's something I very much prioritise, have spent probably 15 years being an advocate for in my agri-political involvement prior to entering this place. So the bill has been used as a guise to protect animals, which is a very valid cause and one you will never have to convince me of. But what this bill actually does, even with the amendments, is paint every animal breeder with the same brush. Yes, there are people out there, whether they be any sort of operator of any sort of business, who don't do the right thing. But they are people who need to be brought to the attention of the law, and the department has a role to play to enforce the rules and laws that we have. This is not the situation when we're making it impossible for people to do business and putting more and more layers of regulation in place, which will actually make the animal welfare outcomes, which they say they want to improve, much, much worse. So let's make sure we get the department doing its job and the minister doing her job to actually understand real issues around animals, agriculture, productivity, and the things that will help animal welfare, not hinder it. Putting more and more criteria in for the business to struggle with is only going to allow less opportunity for animal welfare to shine and be harnessed as an opportunity to do even better. And true people who know animals, work with animals, we understand that is what the business is centred around. Our business, our family business, the dairy farm that my husband and my sons now operate, the animal is the centre of that business. It is what we prioritise. During calving, you know, at 10 o'clock at night, we're out checking the cows. If someone's in labour, then you actually don't go to bed without setting the alarm for 2 o'clock. And at 2 o'clock you get up again and you check that cow, and if she's in trouble you deliver that calf, or you go back to bed and you go back again at 4 o'clock and you check her again. You know your animals, you're looking at them, you're observing them. That's what's happening in the puppy breeding arrangements as well. And it's just ludicrous to put a cap on the amount of breeders, because you don't run a business by capping your opportunity, because the more you can grow that business, the more, in these instances, you can have people observing and looking after the animals, so you can actually do a better job often. I mean, like somebody said, we have a 1,000 cow farm. Does that mean we're not doing a good job? I find that incredibly insulting. I find that incredibly insulting. I've never, ever left an animal suffer. In fact, I own a space blanket, which I don't think too many other farmers even know what they are, but it's a blanket that you put over a human when they're cold to raise their body temperature. I use that on my cows. So, you know, we care about our animals because we know our animals. I remember being in England a few years ago, and I went to visit some animals that were housed, and I thought, oh, this is a bit out there for me, because I hadn't been involved with housed cows before. Ours are free in the paddock, and you know, that seems normal to me. But what I found was I went to a farmer discussion day and I heard them talking about the mattresses and making sure the mattress fitted properly. They're talking about the diet that they use, different to animals when they're outside. And I felt like I was back in the mothers group that I'd been in when my first son was born, because they were talking about the mattress size, they were talking about the diet, they were talking about all the sorts of things that you would imagine a mothers group would discuss. So I find it incredibly outrageous that people like one of the members on the opposite sides had talked about oh no, it was the member for Paran saying that, you know, they're all really bad. Well, I bet he's never actually visited a dog breeding operation, because if he had, he would see how clean the environments are. Clearly, there are some operators who are doing badly, but I would be the very first to say, throw the book at them. We don't tolerate animals being treated badly, so throw the book at them. But this bill really does just show me the Minister for Agriculture has no understanding of how to actually make things work better, not harness it. We have such opportunity in agriculture, whether it be breeding dogs, and you know, we need dogs on farm as well. Our dog Millie gets the cows every morning and night, and you just try and stop her. She knows her job, and I wait at the gate, motorbike stops, and in she goes and gets the cows by herself. The one stragglers are at the back, and come calving time, she gets tied up, because you don't put a dog in a paddock when a cow is calving, because they don't like each other at that time of year. So we know our animals, and we don't do things that don't reflect that knowledge and understanding. I remember being in an animal welfare discussion with some people from around the community. There were some educators, there were some department people, and a woman actually said, oh, on the way to the meeting, it was out in Western Victoria, she came from Melbourne, she said she'd seen a cow giving birth in the paddock on the way to the meeting, and she thought that that was really inappropriate and that we should get a screen and have that available to put around the animal while she was giving birth to protect her privacy. I actually sat in a meeting where somebody said that once, and I think that's what I've heard here today. More of the ridiculousness of people not understanding how businesses that operate with animals actually work and work well. I mean, I see dogs in apartments nowadays when I'm in Melbourne, and I see them taking dogs up and down high-rise apartments, and I find that strange, but it's just different for me. It's not wrong. But what I do in the country with animals is not wrong either. It's about respecting each other and understanding that when you are not in the business of somebody else's business, that don't judge until you actually really get involved and understand. And that's what's not happened here. The consultation that has not taken place with the real people on the ground who are doing a very good job. This is a political ploy to actually please some people. This is absolutely outrageous, and it offends not only the dog owners, I'm sure, but, or they've certainly told me, as I said, hundreds of calls and hundreds of emails, but also the other animal businesses. And what's next? I mean, what, are you going to shut down dairy, shut down wool, shut down beef? Honestly, we do a great job in the country, and I think we should be embracing the opportunities. South West Coast has the biggest farm output in the state, and it is the second biggest output in the country. We need to find ways to increase productivity, and CAPs and these sorts of regulations are doing the exact opposite.